Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Cinema Critic Corner. I'm so excited to be recording this episode because we're going to be talking about Videodrome, and I was actually planning to do like an episode about Videodrome and Irreversible, but I've just become so enamored with Videodrome that I just have to talk about it just purely in its own right because I'm absolutely obsessed with this movie, and I literally watched it yesterday and I'm just thinking about it. I've been thinking about it all day today, maybe because I've been like researching and stuff, but I think it's one of those films that has completely taken over my brain at the moment, and I'm sure in like a week or so it will leave, and I'll get obsessed with something else probably. But I think this is just a phenomenal piece of art really, and I just have to talk about it with you guys. And if you haven't watched it yet, please go watch it first and then come back here, or you can just, enjoy this episode before you watch it. But I feel like you get a better experience if you watch it first because you won't know what I'm talking about. But I'm gathering like information about myself via like what I'm really liking from films, and it's been an interesting journey, and I can't wait to watch more David Cronenberg as well, because Videodrome's my third film of his. I actually watched Crash fairly recently because I was planning to do an episode on that, because I was like, oh, let's see what people want. And I did a little like poll on my Instagram, and Crash was the most voted. I only had 4 options though, and they were like just random. But I really did not like Crash. Not in the same way. I think Videodrome is just much better execution. I prefer the characters. I prefer the storyline and the concept. And it just clicked for me. Crash it didn't make sense to me, and I just didn't understand. But yes, so Videodrome. So the story is kind of weird. It's basically centers around a guy called Max, and he owns, well, what it says on Google is a trashy TV channel broadcast. Like he's the owner of it, and but I thought he was just like, can I say this, on like a porn channel owner? That's what I thought he was, but I guess it's not like explicitly clear. But anyways, it focuses on him, and someone sends him Videodrome, which is basically a video of people getting like tortured and murdered, and it's meant to be like I believe it's like a pirated, it's not like for public consumption, it's just meant for like private, but it was sent to him. And then we're kind of taken on a quest of like, almost like a dissension into madness, and the boundaries between reality and fantasy blur. And it's a very surreal movie, and it feels very Lynchian. Yeah, I just absolutely loved it. And I feel like, okay, I haven't watched Eraserhead, but I feel like he might have taken some inspiration from it, because I know David Cronenberg, I think it's one of his favorite films, Eraserhead. And so I'm not sure if like there was some actual Lynchian influence. I know there were like friends, and I think I watched this video earlier, and it said he was saying that David Lynch had a copy of The Fly like in his cabin or like somewhere, and so I feel like maybe they were probably friends, and I think they share a lot of similar kind of ideas surrounding dreams and the body and like cool stuff. But yeah, so Videodrome was David Cronenberg's 5th major film, and it was following the success of Scanners, which I haven't seen, but that was released in 1981, and so there was a lot of hype for this movie, but it actually bombed at the box office, and I think people were very just didn't like it. Obviously the media probably didn't like it, and I'll get into more of like the media stuff on what it's basically a commentary on the media landscape, but it's so much more than that, and about like televisions and the direction of society and where it was heading at the time, but also so very predictive of what we're going through at the moment. It's just insane. But yeah, now it's kind of regarded as like a cult classic, and has since like regained a lot of popularity. And I think in the BFI list of like top 250 films of all time, it's in there, which I love. And I found this quote that's been like dotted around on like the video essays and like research I was doing. And Andy Warhol said that this film is like A Clockwork Orange of the 1980s. And I just thought, I love that. So David Cronenberg is very much an existentialist, and I won't be touching too much on him as a director, but it's important to know, I guess, a bit of his background in regards to the types of films that he makes and the kind of philosophy that he has. And so he is very, very fascinated by the interaction and fusion of man and machine, but not necessarily just machine. It could be like just external objects, kind of, is how I've sort of summarized it. But often these objects are like some form of technology, and he really, really wants to tap into the taboo and the abhorrent. And he is kind of, from again what I gathered, is the founder and creator of body horror, at least so far as like in the West. I don't know about the Eastern cinema and things like that, but he definitely moved it forwards, and definitely kind of, especially in the 80s, 70s as well, it was very, very extreme, like for its time. And like I've seen a lot of horrors, so I don't really, I feel quite desensitized now, to be honest. And obviously it's 80s effects and things like that, but I like practical effects, but I think it's amazing. And I remember watching The Fly when I was quite young, and it absolutely terrified me, and I still think it's amazing to this day. But yeah, he loves to use horror to kind of demonstrate that extremism of the fusion of humanity and technology, and kind of like very much pushing the boundaries, challenging us as viewers, but also he likes to challenge his protagonists as well in their predicaments. They often go through a sort of transformation, literally. David Cronenberg also, I don't know why I keep saying it, Cronenberg also wants to tell us that the body is temporary and our existence here is futile. And I don't want to get if I start talking about it too much, then I get like overwhelmed. But the point of this movie is to tell us that the physical body is temporary, but it can transcend into something higher. And that was done through the television. And television at the time was pretty phenomenal. And it's whatever to us now. But at the time that, they had these cassette tapes, and it was just so cool in the movie. So the other guy who was kind of like the owner of Videodrome, Brian Oblivion, and he is an important character because he was actually based off of Marshall McLuhan, who is a very famous sociologist, and they were actually in the same university together. And Marshall McLuhan, he basically coined the quote, "The medium is the message," if you've ever heard of that before. That's Marshall McLuhan. And he talked a lot about the interaction between us and television or the media. And the character of Brian Oblivion, he never showed up in the film in person. He was always on a TV screen. And that's because he actually died in the film, And so he continued to live through television and through the digital medium. And it was just very, very surreal and very creepy because it was kind of predicting like content creators. And he was saying like, Brian Oblivion is not my real name. Like, it's a stage name and like all this stuff. And it was like just so weird to see that then and think where we are now. And also how much it's just continued to develop, and that kind of media and that kind of progress is continuing, and we continue to evolve and transform with the technology itself as well. And it's kind of basically this dance, this conversation between us and television and media and entertainment, and like, it controls us, but we also control it. And it's like very, very interesting. And yeah, it literally reshapes us in real time and over time. And it's not just information, but it's very, very powerful and very, very dangerous as well. We also see television and technology as an extension of ourselves too. It's not just something out there that's separate from us, but Cronenberg was trying to convey that we are so interconnected with it, that we, like, our phones, they're always in our pockets, they're always around us. When you just go outside, you see people always on their phones and stuff. And it's like, we have become so ingrained in these devices that we literally rely on them now to continue to feed who we are and to remind us of who we are in a way. And it's like reshaping us, but it's also maintaining that shape as well. And so, yeah, it was kind of a warning, I think, into the danger of that and how much of an over-reliance we have, especially concerning politics and other things, literature, I don't know, just economics, loads of stuff. We see it all online now. We don't really have direct experience with the world anymore. We consume all of our knowledge and all of our experiences digitally. And he was also kind of saying that those experiences are as real as reality. And that was so scary because I could definitely confirm that, you know, like my imagination is so active, and sometimes I'll imagine something or daydream something and it feels so real. And it's like, or maybe like you think of something that's going to happen soon, but then the reality just doesn't match at all what you had imagined, and you know, feels just very different to what you thought it was going to feel. Or like, you know, you kind of like live through your daydreams and dreams as well. It was also a commentary on the porn industry, I think, and sexuality at the time, especially. Like through TV, it's kind of acting out your compulsions without doing any of that in real life. So it was kind of like, yeah, commenting on this. I feel like we've had this argument for a long time of violence in the media or in the porn industry and whether that makes people more violent in real life. And the main character, Max, was kind of saying he thinks he was doing like a social positive because he was letting people, you know, do their thing in their own time rather than hurting people in real life. And I just thought that was an interesting commentary because of then how it descends into this ongoing conversation and ongoing dilemma of how intertwined and interconnected we are with technology, with the media, and that you can't separate them anymore. And it was just completely way ahead of its time for 1983. I can't believe it because it's just absolutely amazing. 40 years later, you know, over 40 years later, and it's as relevant as ever, if not more so, I think. In the film, another kind of point that was, or like message that was said, was about the new flesh. And yeah, I completely forgot to kind of say, like, Max, he was exposed to the Videodrome signal, and this programmed him basically to do certain things throughout the film and complete certain tasks, and that basically led him to killing people in real life. And it was kind of like a blurry thing of like, oh, you don't know if this is actually, because he started hallucinating, and again, like his dreams felt very, very real to him. And then sometimes it was real, but like you couldn't really tell. But yeah, he was programmed to kill people. And then he killed the people. I'm going to have to spoil it. I'm sorry. He killed the people of Videodrome eventually, because then basically it's so hard to... The daughter of Brian Oblivion is still alive, and she knows all about Videodrome. She has loads and loads of his like tapes and stuff like ready to go, and she reprogrammed Max to kill the Videodrome owner basically, or like, yeah, just a bad guy basically. Then he ended up killing himself, and he said the final line was, "Death to Videodrome, long live the new flesh." And the new flesh was like constantly being said, and basically that means what Brian Oblivion was. He was like the foundation of what the new flesh is, where your physical body dies but you continue to live on through digital mediums. And again, that was just so scary because, and just so predictive, because it's literally what I'm doing right now. And it also made me think about like how we all really desire legacy and to leave a mark and to be remembered and all this stuff. And we can do that through video now, which is amazing. But it's also really scary because we can die, but we continue to live. And it's literally like all the filmmakers as well, like all their movies there's interviews of them. It's all out there, yet they're no longer here. And it's just like it's kind of freaky when you think about it. But yeah, this is kind of the concept of the new flesh. And again, it kind of points to like this sort of transhumanism, post-humanism, if you've ever heard of that, which is basically what we're going into right now with the rise of AI and basically technology fusing with us. So like microchips or the classic is kind of like Terminator or something like that. But you can there's like these smaller steps into that way of life, which is again terrifying. There was also a scene in the film where he had a gun. So the gun was like a motif that was throughout the film, again representing that violent nature, not only of media, but also the violent, almost inherent nature that humans have as well, and that we have to repress down. But yeah, the gun started to like mold into his hand. It was so good. It was amazing. It was quite a long scene, but I just thoroughly enjoyed it. And it was like these kind of what they called screws started to like come out of the gun and like go into his arm and like into his veins, and it was all like blur, and it was just amazing. And again, it could be indicating that violent nature, but also relating to now. It's like our phone is so glued to ourselves and always in our hands that it's like become a part of us now. And again, Cronenberg, particularly in this film, I think his kind of messaging of those primal urges that are often dressed and covered up by social norms or by civilization fully just come out. It just needs like a trigger or something for them to come out, basically. And I think again in the film that was kind of touched upon by like Max's intrigue into Videodrome of the torture and murder like videotape that he was sent, and he wanted to again sorry I didn't mention this, but he wanted to buy the broadcast channel of Videodrome and have it for his own TV channel or whatever. And so because he was justifying it by saying, well, if like someone like me kind of likes it, like there must be an audience for it. Also, he thought the video was fake, by the way, but it actually turns out that it was real, apparently, although we're not like 100% sure if it was real because we only ever saw the video. We never actually went in real life to the place where it was filmed or whatever. But he was told by this woman named Marsha, who I don't really know who she was, but she was somehow like related to that kind of industry in that world. And she said like they're very dangerous people. It's really torture and murder. And so that's when he kind of started like freaking out. But yeah, it kind of is interesting how Cronenberg just doesn't shy away from these very hard to talk about topics in most daily conversations. I feel like I can talk easily about it here because it's just me, but if I was in a conversation with someone, if I watched that film with someone else, like, it's strong, hard hitting stuff that like he is kind of saying about humanity and about us, and like that we're like these violent, vile kind of people that have these urges and, are just kind of sitting like there within us. And I think, again, this is kind of a personal take, but I feel like he's saying like, yes, all of us are messed up in some way, but we have like a need to fill that gap, to fill those physical primal desires with something more transcendent, something more spiritual. And in his case, he was saying that is a literal transcendence into man and machine or into death. And yeah, that's kind of wild to think about, but interesting still. He was also saying like the more attached that we feel to our digital tools, to entertainment, to media, the more we also lose ourselves. And I kind of touched on this earlier, the more we're constantly shaped by algorithms, I use AI to look up stuff all the time now, and I'm trying to be more conscious of it, but it's just convenient and it's easy and it's all in one place. But I know deep down that I should, it's like, I do think for myself. That's the thing. I don't think AI is all bad, but it's not great, is it? And I think what's not great about it is the reliance on it. And that's more of a part on us to play, I think, than AI itself. But, attachment can be a very dangerous thing. again, especially when we don't reflect and we don't think about what we're consuming and what we're digesting. And at the time as well, talking more about television, but the screen, I think, it's still relating to now, like the screen dictates more and more of our actions and what we're going to do next, in a way, or like telling us what to do, even in this kind of subconscious sense. But I think it relates to the ending where Max kills himself. But just before he kills himself, he sees himself kill himself on the screen, and then he does the exact same thing in reality. But I think the point was saying, like, it's just a mirror. It's just a mirror to what's real. Or it's saying, we're just so ingrained and indoctrinated by media and by technology that we're just kind of robots and we just follow instructions and we just do what they tell us, So some different interpretations there. Also, one like structural comment I wanted to make that I found really, really cool. This isn't my own finding. I did find this from a video essay. But before Max sees the Videodrome signal, they call it, which is the video and the sound as well, it shows up first, like, for the audience. And so it could kind of be this fun like thing of like we're actually in a one long collective hallucination with Max, and it's all just like a mess. I just thought that was like structurally quite interesting, and I liked that because I didn't pick that up. And also, along with that, like, because apparently this film is very, very, there's a lot of interpretations for it. And again, feels very Lynch. There's just endless sort of discussion on what it really means, and like loads of Easter eggs and key messaging and like themes and all this stuff. But what I found interesting is like we're as confused as Max is, and I think that really adds and contributes to the feel of the film, and really brings it to life and really makes it feel realistic and makes it feel that we are also a part of the film and a part of the outcome, in a way. It's a very interactive film and very audience focused and very meta, and like those are my favorite kinds of films. So if you do have any recommendations for that sort of stuff, please like comment or like just message me or something, because I would love to talk about them more and get like very deep into it, because I could. Just a few more things that I kind of found was like quite interesting. I think Cronenberg really wants to hammer at home that technology is also an expression of ourselves, and that it's not something that is out there that is, again, separate from us, but it is a part of us, but it's also like we made it, we created it. And like, what does that say about humanity? What does that say about us and who we are as a species, and how we can come together as well? And like, I do feel his films are very, and what he's trying to say is very aggressive in a way. It's quite cynical, but I do believe that he is right ultimately, and there is so much truth within this film, and I'm not going to stop talking about it for a while. It's really incredible. This film was also a response to the current media criticism of the excessive sex and violence, even including his own work, because apparently he got quite a lot of backlash, I believe. I don't remember what I only know Scanners. I don't know what the other 3 films were, and I thought that was interesting, because again, it's like, also it's funny because when this film did come out, it bombed because of people's dislike of sex and violence within the film as well, but it was criticizing it. And I hate when like this always happens where people don't understand what the movie is trying to say, or like that it's actually a critique. It's not glorifying it. It's not saying this is right. It's saying this happens, let's talk about it. And I think that's what I really, really love about Cronenberg. Even though I didn't like Crash, maybe there was something there that like related with some people about cars, but it wasn't really about cars. That's the thing. I think it was about mortality and people's need for connection. And anyways, so overall the Videodrome signal continues, as now we're entering a really strange and weird era of time, and I don't know how to feel about it. I feel mixed, but you know, with social media, with avatars, content creators, algorithms, AI, and more weird stuff, VR, AR, you know, it's getting quite freaky now. And yeah, I wonder what Cronenberg will have to say about this now. But yeah, I think that's kind of everything I wanted to touch on. And again, there's so much to this movie that I could talk about, and again, there's a lot of interpretations, a lot to say. I will link some of the video essays that I watched that were really, really good and way better articulated than me. I actually used to make video essays, but I scripted them. So I was saying everything that I wanted to say like really, really well, but I felt like it was just not me. And again, it kind of relates to the film as well. I was like, on TV, like everything is scripted and everything is like a version of yourself, but it's not actually really who you are. But in a way, it is who you are because it can feel more real than reality. So yeah, I don't want to confuse you too much. If yeah, I hope this wasn't too confusing, but I will link some of the video essays that I found and some of the resources if it's helpful. I really hope you enjoyed listening and or watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks so much. Bye!